to Cityline. We are Zooming from my kitchen into your home. And with me right now, I have two fabulous individuals who are here to talk about an opportunity for you to give community feedback. And we're talking about Tacoma Climate Action. Please join me in welcoming Kyla Wilson. You are a sustainability specialist with AmeriCorps and also an AmeriCorps member, and you are serving the city of Tacoma. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Good to have you here, Ms. Kyla. And with you, Ms. Emma Keese. You are the Climate Action Coordinator, and you also work for Citizens for a Healthy Bay. Welcome to Cityline, Ms. Emma.
Thanks, Amanda. Happy to be here.
Good to have you here. So, Kyla, let's start out with just kind of an overview of what is Tacoma Climate Action Planning process about?
Yeah, so the climate action planning process is really about how can we at the city prepare for the worst consequences of climate change. So make sure we are ready to adapt and change to our climate, and also make sure we can prevent as much climate change as we can by reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. And we want this plan to guide city investments across all departments for the next 5 to 10 years, looking towards our future in 2030, and help us, reduce our emissions, avoid climate change, and provide as many benefits to our community as we can. So we want this to be a really community-driven process, making sure that we are putting community priorities first and helping to address social justice issues, affordable housing, public health, and all these other things that we really need in our community, along with reducing carbon emissions and addressing climate change.
Gosh, Kyla, is that all? My goodness. I mean, you said it so beautifully, and I just want to reiterate, when we talk about climate is everything. I mean, sometimes I don't think that people understand that climate is where we do what we do. And if our climate's not great, we don't do what we do. So Emma, I understand that you are approaching a second period or phase of engagement in this. What happened in the first phase and what is happening soon, Emma?
Yeah, so in phase one, we began by working really closely with community members and partners to engage folks about their priorities. It was important for us to begin our process just focusing on people's general needs right now, especially given the COVID-19 crisis. So we started by recruiting and compensating community members to participate. We focused on reaching frontline community members, so Black, Indigenous, and people of color, low-income folks, members of the LGBTQ plus community, and other overburdened community members who are experiencing the first and worst impacts of climate change. What we heard in that first phase was people were really concerned about green space and urban forests. They were concerned about affordable housing, transit and active transportation. They were really worried about pollution and environmental health, about systemic inequity and injustice, and about government support and opportunities for community leadership. At the same time, as we were gathering all of that information from the community, we were also updating our understanding of local climate impacts, the emissions that we are having here and where those are coming from, and just like the latest climate science. All of that went into our sort of phase two that we're in now. So we drafted climate actions based on community ideas and the science, and turned them into something that we can actually implement. And now we're getting another round of community input about those draft strategies and actions through June. And then we will share a draft of the plan with community members, partners, and the Tacoma City Council between late summer and autumn, when we expect it will be considered for adoption.
Wow, you guys have been busy. Those are a lot of questions and a lot of answers and a lot of great listening. So Emma, can you give us just an overview of how has the community been involved prior to this?
Yeah, so community participants have been involved in a variety of ways. We provided compensation for community members to participate in one of two more involved roles. One was climate ambassadors, which was folks who were talking to their friends and family and neighbors about this process, asking them questions about their priorities or needs and bringing that back to us. And we also have an environmental justice leader work group, which has 10 members who are all frontline community members that are learning more about Tacoma's climate emergency and then sharing their experience and wisdom with us. And we'll also actually be writing a section of the plan. People also gave their input in general surveys and by attending workshops, which were available for members of the public as well as city committees, boards, commissions, and we will share opportunities to attend some upcoming workshops at the end of the segment here.
Yes, you will. So Kyla, what climate impacts are we experiencing now, or in the near future, if we don't make these investments for our climate?
Yeah, as we know, the global average temperature is warming due to our greenhouse gas emissions. And this has led to a lot of local impacts we're already experiencing, and they're going to only get worse as we continue to emit carbon emissions. So in Tacoma, we're already seeing more extreme weather as that climate shifts. This looks like extremely hot days in the summer, having more of those every year. It also means heavier rainstorms that lead to flooding and landslides, and also extended periods of drought in our region that can also cause wildfires we've seen the last few years. So these hot days are particularly bad for our outdoor workers, our farm workers, and for a lot of our non-human relatives, our salmon, and those impacts that we have on our streams with heavier rain and different snowmelt times has a big impact on our whole ecosystem and everyone else we share the region with. So those are really big impacts. And I think the one that we've all experienced, especially this past year, is that impact of wildfires. So that drought causing more wildfires in our area, even out of state, has a huge impact on our local air quality. And this past year, it was unsafe really to breathe that air outside. And if you didn't have access to an indoor place with clean air, you were much more impacted as well. So if you have underlying heart conditions or lung conditions, you're more vulnerable as well. And these are all impacts that we need to protect our community from going forward.
Boy, you said it so accurately. I think about the weather this last year. Also, I think about Kyla and Emma growing up here and what those summers used to be like when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Even when I lived in Eastern Washington, I can remember what those summers were like and compare them to now. And this is not the Pacific Northwest that I grew up in terms of those summers. So speaking of that, Kyla, I want you to answer this first, and Emma, come on in with your ideas as well. What does a better Tacoma look like as we approach that big community climate goals for 2030 and for 2050, Kyla?
Yeah, I shared some pretty heavy climate impacts there, and that's scary, but we also have a huge opportunity right now. And the good news is that we have a lot of solutions and that there's already a lot being done to start to address climate issues. So, we took a great first step with City Council passing the climate emergency resolution in 2019, and it's come out of a huge amount of community support. All of our climate advocates who are pushing us at the city to really address these issues and take action now. That is all so much good energy that we need to address climate change and work towards a better community in 2030. And I think that's going to look like a lot of good benefits for our community, not just for reducing our emissions. We can have better housing, we can have more green spaces that make all of our lives better, as well as reducing our carbon emissions.
Absolutely. Emma, what would you add to that in terms of what you are thinking about for 2030, then later in 2050?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that that is really the reason that Citizens for a Healthy Bay decided to partner with the city of Tacoma on this project, is because we saw not just that this is an emergency, but also that this is a real opportunity for us, because there are solutions out there and there are things that can be done not only to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also to think about the negative impacts, who is being impacted on this, and how we can have a more just, sustainable Tacoma and address the community's priorities around social justice and health. So it means looking at having healthier, affordable transportation options, affordable housing, like Kyla mentioned, protecting our lands and waters. So I think that a better Tacoma, for us is just, more of our neighbors being able to live healthy lives, being able to pay for the things that they need, and not having to worry about their children and grandchildren's future in Tacoma.
Absolutely. In my neighborhood, I drive by food is free tables all the time. And I think about that as I think about some of the silver linings that came out of the pandemic that we are just starting to realize. And I'm like, I hope that the food is free tables stay forever in Tacoma, because they are part of that healthy climate and taking care of the needs of our citizens. So speaking of that, Kyla, how does this plan intersect with other community input and planning efforts? Because, Tacomans, we show up, we're on committees. So where are you finding help in some cross-section ways?
Yeah, so as Emma shared earlier, the plan is coming out of a lot of the community input that we've heard through this process, but it's also coming out of other plans that already exist and have been going on and have, gone through these processes of community review in the past. So it's building off of a lot of the guidance behind the Tacoma 2025 strategic plan and the One Tacoma comprehensive plan that guide our entire city's actions. We had a previous environmental action plan that ended in 2020. So that was a 5-year plan, started in 2015. And we made some progress in the city on environmental action during that time period. And now we are just building off of that action and hopefully doing something much more aggressive to address climate change.
Yes.
There's also, we talked a little bit about affordable housing. There's the Affordable Housing Action Strategy. All those plans will continue to guide city action. And then the climate action plan is just adding that layer of not only does housing need to be affordable and healthy, it also needs to be low carbon for the future.
Yeah, it is I have a friend who says, and I love this saying, a real 30,000 looking down feet kind of solution, isn't it?
Definitely.
And a lot of people are waiting to hear these workshops, where they are, where they're coming up. So Emma, give us the 411.
Yeah, so everyone is encouraged to join one of the Tacoma climate workshops that we're hosting. We have one on Saturday, June 12th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. and one on Tuesday, June 15th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Those are both via Zoom. At those workshops, you'll hear more about the climate impacts, this climate action planning process, and have an opportunity to really give your feedback on these draft strategies and what the city should be doing. There's also an opportunity to attend a workshop for small local businesses on Monday, June 14th. And if you can't attend any of those workshops, you can take a self-guided climate action community feedback survey and give your feedback to us that way as well.
Well done. I mean, talk about lowering all barriers. There's no reason why people can't take this survey and be a part of the solution. Thank you, both of you, and the teams that you represent for all of the work that you have done, the long hours that you have put in, and those moments when you're walking through your neighborhood going, did we think about this? I need to go back and look. So thank you so much for all that you do. I want to have you back on after this survey happens, and I want more feedback on that process. Deal?
Deal.
Definitely, yeah.
All right. Thank you both so much. It's time for a break. You take a break. I'll take a break. We'll be right back in just a moment.